The vessel glass associated with the tenant occupation was limited to 3 fragments of free-blown olive green bottle glass. Glass was not easily accessible in Delaware County in the early 19th century due to the material requirements necessary for its creation. Therefore, bottles on the property would have been reused as long as possible, for replacements were expensive and difficult to acquire. The few fragments recovered likely indicate a subsistence value of personal storage and reuse, as opposed to market dependence. In contrast, over 100 shards of glass from vessels, bottles, tumblers, and jars were collected from the Middlemast occupation. This significant increase evidences a dependency on market integration, as vessels were discarded more frequently, as opposed to hoarding them for reuse on site. Thus, the Middlemasts had achieved the financial ability to engage in the consumer economy that was gaining force in the middle class during the late 19th century. A wide variety of ceramic styles and decorations date to the tenant occupation of the property. Jackfield tea sets, similar yet cheaper black-glazed redware tea service pieces, flat and hollowware creamware and pearlware, and utilitarian stoneware containers were all identified. The oldest annular patterns were only found in the North and West Middens, along with the Jackfield pieces and Albany slip stoneware. None of the pieces represented matching sets. The ceramics appear to have been either personally curated and transported to the site when renters first occupied the house, or acquired piecemeal after they arrived, likely as second-hand or donated cast-offs. Flatware, including plates and platters, and hollowware such as teacups and pitchers, were represented the most in the earlier deposits. Purely decorative pieces or specialized serving pieces were conspicuously absent, suggesting only a small financial investment in ceramic pieces. In addition, the amount of utilitarian ceramics for food storage was also low, indicating little excess farm production. Tenants of the property were likely limited in the acquisition of supplies more by personal finance than isolation. Most, if not all, of the resources produced would be expended in cultivating the land, raising livestock, and meeting rental obligations. Simple survival left little or no profit. The variety of type and pattern in the ceramics suggest an easily accessible, robust marketplace, despite the rural nature of the area. The property is located relatively close to the urban center of Delhi, less than 3 miles north beyond the river. Supplies, services, and luxuries were all available as Delhi was the county seat, connected to the surrounding urban centers by main thoroughfares. In addition, the west branch of the Delaware River offered transportation and trade routes as far south as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Slightly later decorative patterns on whiteware, likely from a second tenant occupation, included flatware and hollowware in the London shape, with polychrome hand-painted underglaze, various colored transfer-printed underglaze, and molded rims with plain and colored shell and beaded patterns. The increase in the amount of whiteware overall, as well as the individual patterns, suggest an increase in fiscal flexibility towards housewares and non-essential purchases. When later tenants occupied the property, the log house and basic farming structures of fields and fences were already established, leaving the bulk of the effort to be immediately launched into meeting rents and attempting to build a profit, as opposed to simply fulfilling the needs of basic survival. The Middlemast ceramic component contained more whiteware than the previous tenant occupation. Whiteware with flow blue, transfer-printed underglaze, polychrome overglaze, gilt, and decal were collected along with an abundance of undecorated whiteware and porcelaneous ceramics. Bowls, cups, teacups, saucers, plates, and serving dishes in similar forms and patterns indicate an increase in matching or coordinating dish sets and the more formal activities that are associated with them. The ceramic assemblage also displays significantly more undecorated whiteware than those of the older occupation. Either through mail-order catalogs or market acquisitions, the Middlemasts appear to have been following the growing trend of consumerism so prevalent during the middle and late 19th century, as mass production increased the accessibility of material goods. Also, the increase in utilitarian ceramics, as well as the presence of glass storage vessels, indicates the increased viability of the farm and the presence of excess food goods stored for market. The tenant occupation was evidenced by a log house chimney base and extensive midden remains. For approximately 50 years, the site supported subsistence dairy farming, and the occupants resided in the lower socioeconomic bracket. Tenants had no impetus to improve the area beyond the essentials for survival and basic rent requirements, as farm features and their monetary value remained the property of the landlord. The artifact assemblage included a wide variety of ceramics, both in type and pattern, leaning most heavily toward pearlware and creamware. Pieces were either personally curated and transported to the site, or acquired piecemeal, secondhand after arriving on the property. Few utilitarian ceramics and almost no glassware were recovered from this period, indicating little production of excess foodstuffs. In general, the tenants occupied the lower socioeconomic bracket and had almost no opportunity to progress financially. In contrast, the owner occupation by the Middlemasts displays steady financial progression and upward mobility. Thomas Middlemast constructed a larger, higher quality home and significantly improved the property through the creation of farm fields and steady maintenance. All profits from the land returned directly to him as owner. The artifact assemblage indicates a dependency on the consumer market through plain, cheap, mass-produced whiteware and the variety of vessel glass waste. The farm was highly productive, with excess foodstuffs stored in glass and ceramic vessels in the whitewashed basement. By the second generation, the family had progressed solidly into the middle class and eventually became urbanized when they moved into the village of Delhi in 1906. Overall, the site displays a steady increase in the socioeconomic standing of the residents. Housing shifts from a simple log house to a timber frame structure with substantial foundation, and the artifact assemblage displays an increase in material discards as opposed to personal reuse of older items. In conclusion, the T. Middlemast Historic Site reflects the broader socioeconomic trends of the 19th century, as well as the more local influences of active anti-rentism and increased market economy supported by the proximity of the county seat.